And welcome to the fourth session of the IDSR training. Happy Maulud to those who are celebrating. We will be done with this soon so that you can go and celebrate with your families. Today it's a very exciting session because today what we will be doing is putting what we have learned so far into practice. And I'm sure you have been doing these exercises and seeing how this IDSR can actually be implemented in the field and discussing with your colleagues. So today we have some facilitators that are excited to be here to share with you and discuss with you the answers and also hear from you on areas that you will need more clarifications. Okay, it's just like we've been doing with our sessions so far. We just want to say that if you have any technical questions, please use the Q&A, and one of us, we will make sure that we either answer it for you in the chat or we will answer it in plenary. So we have some important announcements. Has been mentioned previously, a post-test will be given to each and every participant that has registered after each module. Now that we have come to the end of module 1, you will receive a post-test link through your emails. The test will take about 10 to 15 minutes to complete. And what you will be given is a link, and when you enter the link, it will ask you for some details. You put in your name, and then it will take you into the questions. It is designed to self-mark. So as you're answering, it will show you the correct answers, and it will show you what you have done, the wrong, if you have selected anything that is wrong. And at the end, it will give you an overall score. You will need approximately 80% to successfully pass the test, at the end of which those who have passed successfully, you will be able to download a certificate for each test that will come. However, if you do not pass, you will still be able to go on to take the next module, which is module 1. Next Thursday. So it doesn't mean that you will not be able to continue if you do not pass the test. So like we mentioned, the link to the post-test will only be sent to those who have registered. And it's a unique link. You will not, it's not a shareable link. It will be sent to individuals. We'll answer more questions on this on the Telegram page if there are any questions on this post-test. So before we start the practical exercises, we will want to just recap on the sub-module C that we did last week. So what we talked about last week was what is community-based surveillance. So we discussed about community-based surveillance. And we said that, so what is community-based surveillance? And we said community-based surveillance is a systematic detection, reporting and responding to events of public health importance within a community by community members. So, sorry, I think I am, I may be, can everyone see the PowerPoint? Kindly let me know.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay.
Recap of subject.
Okay, great. And then we said, what is the role of the community members in surveillance and response? So they have a very, very important role in community based surveillance. They will not only be able to help us detect any unusual event, but then they will also help in reporting the event and also, in fact, in the response and changing of behavior and even after the response to monitor the impact. So they have the entire cascade, they are able to support in the national surveillance system. And we also listed the steps you should take when you are establishing a community-based surveillance and response system, from identifying the flow, developing the forms, adapting the forms, agreeing on what should be monitored in the various countries. So entire process of actually establishing a community-based surveillance system, we discussed it in the last submodule. How do we select the criteria for a community-based surveillance focal person? So we said we will try to look at someone who is very hardworking, who is dedicated, has the community, has the interest of the community at heart, is someone that is reliable, is honest, and has a good rapport with the rest of the community, irrespective of their ethnicities and their religion. So it's someone that is accepted in the community and is also a respected person. So we also talked about community case definitions, how it differs from the other case definitions that we use in IDSR. Community case definitions are made very simple to use simple signs and symptoms so that the community focal person will be able to use those criteria, the case definitions, which are usually accompanied by pictorial as well, images that they can use to report cases. And also we talked about sources of information for community-based surveillance. Every community has different sources. So it's for the national system to actually look at the places where is most likely sources of information. So you can have various sources of information. You can have even using community workers that are working in the community, for example, community-based organizations. You can have surveillance officers that are within the community, whether it's animal health or other fields. You can have teachers, you can have places where they gather, marketplaces, or where they go for like, like for example, like when they all assemble, when maybe they're grinding some flour or something where there's a group of people. So different, there are so many sources of information, apart from also rumors and other things. So we also talked about what and how to report. So what to report is based on each and every country to select what are the things to report, agreed upon things to report, and then how to report as well. So who do you report to? From the community, they will report to the next level, most likely a health facility or a sub-district. So, and how, within what time frame? So usually if it is an event that needs to be immediately notified within 24 hours. Through what means? Usually if it is something that needs to be reported immediately, with using phone call, or actually even walking if needs be to go and report. And also, reporting through the other channels, like in terms of filling the forms. And of course, the forms have to be filled, but information needs to be passed quickly while the other things are also being done. So how do we verify and investigate a community-based surveillance event? Here we are talking about events. So events don't really have to have a case definition as such. The case definitions are for recognized conditions and diseases. But for an event, it's an unusual event. For example, if there are unusual deaths that are happening, maybe a large number of children are all of a sudden absent from school. So those are events, they're unusual events that are happening. And they also can point to and indicate to us that something is happening and which will need investigation. Most of the time, if you look at unusual events that happen, for example, the Ebola that happened, it was an unusual event which was not common to that area. And so by investigating, you'll be able to link things. If 2 or more people are affected, you'll be able to get a common source and be able to investigate that. So how do you investigate? The last session, there was a very beautiful diagram on the flow of data all the way up to the national level, up to even WHO. So how does it go from the community level? So the next level is usually, like we said, health facility. And that is where you have the link between the community-based surveillance and the hospital or facility-based surveillance. That's where they link together. So you have people from there coming to investigate, and then once they've verified it, either it's something to discard or to take further up. So we went through that as well. Of course, with every system, you have to monitor, you have to supervise, and you have to evaluate. So the aim of actually going to monitor the community-based surveillance is to make sure that the right forms are being used, the community-based surveillance person also is getting feedback from you. And if needs be, also when you are there, also to train them on things that you may have detected that will need additional or boosted training. So hands-on training. So these are all very important parts, and feedback is a very essential part of IDSR. You'll see it in the entire thing. Feedback is so essential for people that are doing the work. So this is just a short recap of submodule C. We are also excited that we have, because we know community-based surveillance is such an important part, and we had many questions, one of which that I just highlight here is that how do we sustain community-based surveillance in our respective countries, because it's a volunteer system. It's by doing things which may be very easy to do, but would make the person feel empowered. Things like recognizing the person at the local level, giving them the respect they deserve, even if you have to give them like an ID or a tag or something that shows that they are doing something valuable, using immunization campaigns during which time that they can really shine in their communities. So these are simple ways of motivating them to make sure they continue doing what they're doing for the common good of the community and for the country as a whole. So in short, colleagues, this is a short recap of submodule C, and we will go straight into the practice exercises. My colleagues are waiting. So we will proceed to practice exercise 1, and I'll hand over to Luca for that. Thank you. Luca.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Good morning once again. Welcome to the concluding part of the introductory module. I think this is the first exercise, and I believe we all had time to do it. So we're going to use the flow diagram. You were supposed to complete, the flow diagram in the cycle. And what you're supposed to use to complete it are the following: prepare, response, report, investigate, and confirm, and then communicate risks and provide feedback. Shamilia, can you go on, please? Next, please. Okay, so this is the flow diagram. No, not the next one. Go back. Okay, so this is the flow diagram. So I'll take you through the. Okay, next one, please. Next one, Shamila. Sorry. Next, Shamila, please. Okay, so this is the flow diagram. So the first thing that we do is you first detect. And this detection of the problem could be at the health facility or in the community. And once an event or an increasing case of diseases are detected or an epidemic is suspected, it should be reported. So the question is, where do we?
Okay, we seem to be having a problem
in
with Luca.
IDSR guideline, implementation of IDSR, the surveillance officers at the, sorry? Shamli, are you talking? Okay.
Yes, okay, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. So the surveillance officers at the district health level are the most critical people in the IDSR implementation. So once a case is detected either at the health facility level or in the community, it is reported to the surveillance officers at the district level. In Nigeria, we say surveillance officers at the LGA level. So once that is done, it is expected that the information will be analyzed. And after it is analyzed, to know if is it a true outbreak or not. And after that, then you proceed to investigate and confirm. And when an outbreak is confirmed, of course, you put up the response strategy in place and you respond to the outbreak. And this will include either detection of the cases, isolation of the cases, and then treatment of the cases, and include, of course, search for more cases. Included in the response is to communicate the risks. Of course, as we all know, that disease starts from the community before coming to the health facilities. So you need to communicate risks to the people in the community and you provide feedback. At the end, of course, you need to evaluate your response. This will help you to know what you did well, what you did not do well. For example, how early did we detect the case? How early was it isolated? How effective was the treatment of the case, and what needs to be improved upon? And of course, this will help you to prepare, because surveillance is not static. It is continuous. As we said in our definition of public health surveillance, that is a continuous process. So you prepare, and this will help you. The more you prepare will help you to detect any subsequent epidemic early and to respond also early. So I think this is the answer to your questions. I mean, the exercise 1. I would have loved to hear responses from you, but of course, you don't have the opportunity. But you can mark yourself. So this is the answer to your questions. Thank you. For those who pass, well, congratulations. For those who fail, I will say that, well, the fact that you failed just once, that does not mean that you will fail all the time. So it just simply means go back, read through it again, understand it, and of course, you'll pass. Thank you, and over, Shamila.
Thank you very much, Luca, for that explanation. Colleagues, if you have any questions for Luca.
Ms. Shamila, sorry, your voice is cracking in between. Can you just check your mic?
Can you hear me well now?
Not yet.
Not yet, Shamila.
Hello?
Not yet. Can you just plug out the wire and just plug in once again, because some disturbance is coming. The voice is coming like watery in between, and there's too much of haziness is also there.
Okay. Is it clear now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Maybe put off the video.
Okay. Sorry about that. Hello, is it clear now?
No. No problem. We can just proceed forward.
Mugaga.
Yes, Samira.
Yes, Mugaga, can you please take the exercise 2?
Thank you very much, Samira. And good morning, colleagues. We now move to exercise 2, and congratulations to all those that managed to complete this exercise, where we are required to fill CBS reporting forms. Basically, you would have gotten a scenario where you would have picked the information to complete this form, but we didn't have a particular scenario to use. So what we are going to do is to go through the forms that are required to be used in community-based surveillance. And these are two kinds of forms. We have the community alert reporting form and the community-based survey and the logo sheet, which is filled on a monthly basis. Can we proceed? Yes, thank you. So this is the community alert reporting form. When an event is detected at the community level, we are supposed to notify the nearest health facility of this event. And these are the basic variables that we complete to inform the nearest health facility from the community to the nearest health facility of the event that has occurred. So what we are required, what the community focal person is required to fill is the name of the CBS focal person, the person reporting. They should indicate their telephone number, the community where they are reporting from, the sub-district, and other description of the community where they are reporting, the district, the sub-district, and all that. So depending on the country where you are, you would adapt this form to fit into how you describe the locations. Then, of course, what is also very important is to indicate the time, the date when they are reporting, the type of illness or condition or event based on the descriptions you've given them in the community case definitions. So they would see where this event field fits according to the community case definitions you gave them. So they would identify the event they are reporting, or they would just describe the event in case it doesn't fit in any of the case definitions you've given them. It would be something unusual. Then they have to indicate the date when this event happened. Then they have also to indicate the date and time when it was detected. Also important to indicate is where did this happen. So they should indicate the location of where this event happened, the community, the ward, the sub-district, the district, and all that, depending on the system in the country. Then also what important is for them to indicate how many people have been affected, and also to indicate whether anyone died out of this event, and also if they died, how many, if anyone died, how many people died. It's also important to indicate whether there were any sick or dead animals involved. In line of the One Health, would be interested to know if there were any animals involved. Then, is the event ongoing? Want to know whether the event, it would be important to know whether the event has ended or it's still ongoing. So they would have to answer this question: is the event ongoing at the time of the report? And also to indicate what action has been taken. in response to this event that they are reporting. So these are the basic variables that once an event is detected, a community health worker should notify the nearest health facility of. But of course, there should be room for them to give any other additional relevant information that would help the investigators in responding to this particular event. Can we go next? Yes, thank you. So once an event is reported, for every event that the community focal person reports, they should also complete the, sorry, thank you. For every event that the community focal person reports, they should also complete the community-based surveillance suspected disease and public health events monthly log sheet. This is where, of course, once that alert form is completed, it is submitted to the nearest health facility. But the health facility, the surveillance focal person also keeps a record of what he has reported, and this form is completed and also submitted to the health facility at the end of the month. But of course, you should keep a copy of this monthly log sheet. So what is key to complete on this monthly log sheet is to indicate of course, the community where they are and the district where they are reporting from, the month for which the report is being submitted, and the year. So you will have a serial number for the events being reported in the month. So you would number the events from one each month. So each month you start a new serial number starting from 1. So you would have a serial number. Then the type of event you've reported, where this event happened, the description of the location or the community. Okay, of course, sorry. Of course, you need to indicate the date when this event happened. You describe the event that you reported, when this event happened, and where. You describe the location or the community where this particular event happened. So when you are formatting this form, you should give room for the community focal person to have a proper description in terms of identifying the village, in terms of identifying the sub-district and the district where this event happened. We would also want to know how many people were affected in this event, and how many people died, and what action was taken. Of course, when you're adapting this form in your country, there are a few more variables you can add on, whether there was involvement. For example, if there was an involvement of animals for the One Health purposes, so that once this summary is received at the health facility, even if the alert was missed, the alert notification was not received, the health facility would be able to know the basic variables or the basic information regarding this particular event. So for each one you report immediately, once it's already alerted, you capture some few of the variables from the alert notification into this particular monthly logo reporting form. The basic thing that you should have to run the community-based surveillance system. So you should have a form for immediate alerting of the health facility, and also a sheet, a logo sheet, where you summarize and keep all the events that you have reported in a month. Yes, this is what I would want to present for this particular exercise. Thank you, and over.
Okay, thank you, Mugaga, for taking us through exercise 2. Please, colleague, use the Q&A for your questions. If there are other issues you need clarification on, I've seen some questions already coming in, so we'll try our best to address some of them either online or to the hearing of everybody. So thank you very much. I don't know if Shamila, are you back now?
Colleagues, is this clear?
No.
You're still poor. Okay, so I'll call on invite. Okay, I'll invite Wilson to please kindly take us through exercise 3. Wilson.
All right, so yes, thank you very much, Luca. Thank you very much, Luca, and facilitator colleagues. And again, our gratitude to learning throughout our careers, and this is just a part of it. So exercise 1 and 2 are done. Now we are in exercise 3. And like we were told at the beginning by the moderator, the exercises are just to remind us what we learned in this module and to reinforce the concepts that came out in public health surveillance, particularly IDSR, in international health regulations, and in community-based surveillance. So in this exercise, it is picked from the participants guide, and the instructions are there, but we have them here. I'll read briefly. It's a simple case study of a suspected cholera outbreak. It says that on the 1st of April 2017, Josephine, a 25-year-old fishmonger from the Thala chiefdom in Kambia district, complained that she had severe watery diarrhea for a day. She also vomited twice that morning. She lives in the same household with her 3 children, a husband and stepmother. There have been episodes of cholera in the neighboring district over the last 3 months. And Josephine traveled to the neighboring districts 3 days previously for an auntie's wedding. So the first question is, what outbreaks are you familiar with in your catchment area and from the adjacent areas across the border? So for this forum that we are having this morning and that we have been having in the last several weeks on Thursdays, we are coming together as participants from African countries that are predominantly English speaking. And in all those countries, there have been some public health events of one kind or the other. And we don't have the opportunity now to get feedback from you, but I believe each one of us has either knowledge or practical involvement in some disease outbreak. Currently, COVID is across the world. We have had Ebola, we have had cholera, we have had Lassa fever, we have had meningitis, we have had yellow fever in different parts of the continent. So the answer to this question will vary depending on the participant and which country they are and which locality they are. So the next question is, what is cholera? And there are several ways to express it, but one way to say that cholera is an acute illness caused by a germ called Vibrio cholerae, and cholera presents with passing lots of watery diarrhea with or without vomiting. And cholera may cause people to die if they do not seek treatment early. So when we say cholera is an acute illness, it means that it develops with suddenness. It is not an illness that goes on lingering. No, when someone catch cholera, they suddenly start having the symptoms. They suddenly start having very frequent diarrhea, and they end up with the dehydration. And if medical attention is not sought soon enough, they say in the books you cannot see sunrise and see sunset with cholera without treatment. You may die. So the next question is, how does cholera spread within a community? And remember our part of the emphasis we had in sub-module C last week was how community-based surveillance supplements and complements our public health surveillance. So how does cholera spread within a community? That is very important for us to know if we are going to mount measures that will end an outbreak where it occurs. And what is the answer to this? One, cholera spreads through drinking water or eating food that is contaminated. So either the food or the water is contaminated with the cholera germ. Also, cholera can spread through eating or drinking at large gatherings of people, including ceremonies such as weddings or funerals, because that increases the risk of contracting cholera. And remember, in this particular case study, Josephine attended a ceremony in the neighboring district where at her auntie's place. The other way that cholera can spread in a community is contact with persons, with sick persons and those who have died of cholera, and not washing hands and running soap and running water and soap before eating. So when cholera is spreading in a community, the person who leaves the household to go out there and catch cholera can also come to the household, and through person to person, through contact, they can spread it to the other people in the household or in the neighborhood, and also in the handling of the dead during a cholera outbreak. Cholera can spread in that manner. The next question, question 4, is, can cholera spread to and from a neighboring area across the border? So, like we have said, in different countries in our region, we have had different public health events, including outbreaks. And one of the outbreaks that some of the countries have been managing is cholera. So the answer to that question is yes, cholera can spread from a neighboring area to an adjacent area, even across the border. So if, for example, a district in a country is a border district and there is cholera going on there, the cholera can easily spread to the adjacent district, which is in the next country, and that can start the outbreak in that country. So it means that from what we learned during the international health regulations, the outbreak can be not so huge, but it has risk for international spread. Because once it goes to the next country, that is an example of an international spread. So question 5, using the community case definition for cholera. Remember, we said we have community case definitions and we have the standard case definitions that are used by health workers. Community case definitions are for the lay workers, the lay people that we seek their support when we want to extend public health surveillance into the community. So the community case definitions have simpler words. So we remove the medical jargon from them. We remove the complex vocabulary. We make them simple. For example, you can just say diarrhea and dehydration, or fever and rash. And then you make a short sentence out of it, and that is the community case definition. So using the community case definition for cholera, discuss within your group if Josephine should be suspected of having cholera. From what we have come across, and maybe if I could just get us back there for the moment, you see, she's a 25-year-old fishmonger. She complained of severe watery diarrhea for a day, and she also vomited twice. And she had traveled to the neighboring district where there have been episodes of cholera. So back to our question. should we suspect Josephine of having cholera? And the answer is yes, because the symptoms, she has severe acute watery diarrhea, and she had traveled to an area where cholera has been reported. So question 6, since Josephine has not visited a health clinic so far, what should the community do? What should the community do? And the answer is that the community should inform the health facility immediately. And that again brings us into our resource person there, who is a community health worker. They should go to the health facility and let our health worker there know, either the nurse or the physician assistant or the clinic officer, let them know. And then Josephine should be advised to start oral rehydration salt solution treatment. So to start taking ORS as they go to the clinic immediately. Why? Because cholera kills through dehydration. So fluid replacement is cardinal in preventing mortality. And the sooner the ORS treatment is started, the better the outcome of any illness with cholera. So the other thing is that Josephine should keep good personal and environmental hygiene. Personal means washing her hands, because there are other people. Remember, in the case study, we have been told she's living with some children and her husband and her stepmother. So the risk for person-to-person spread is there. Environmental hygiene, she can spread to the other people who are in that village with her. So wash their hands with soap and water after visiting the toilet, before eating and cooking. Avoid open defecation, that is safe waste disposal, use a toilet, and clean their houses and environment regularly. And then question 7. So what do you think that the community-based surveillance focal person should take? What action should the community-based surveillance focal person take in view of the circumstances at that time? So 1, they should notify the health facility manager. So the trained health worker at the health facility should be notified. And why? Because it is the health worker who is able to verify that, oh yes, this looks like suspected cholera. 2, they should fill the community alert form and submit to the health facility manager. And this community alert form is the one that has just been discussed in question 2. And then Josephine should be referred to the clinic immediately for treatment. Remember, we said cholera causes dehydration, and dehydration is a medical emergency. So she should be referred to the clinic immediately. Question 8, discuss if a community-based surveillance focal person should be part of the investigation and community feedback team. So we are being asked to explain what would be the role and value of a community-based surveillance focal person, that is like a community health worker in these circumstances. So the answer is yes, this person would be worthy to have in a team, and the community-based surveillance focal person will assist the investigation team during a cholera outbreak in the following activities. 1, mobilizing community members for health education on prevention of cholera. So that is gathering people. During cholera outbreak, you quickly need to gather people in even sometimes under a shade in a village, so that you pass to them a quick message. That is what we call risk communication. And the community health worker is a person who is known in the community. So they'll help you with this, bringing people together fast enough. Identifying and reporting any new cases that may occur. You can even ask them to do door-to-door active case search within that village. And because they are well known there and the community has confidence in them, they will do so. And anybody reporting fresh cases of, any household reporting fresh cases of diarrhea will be identified, and those people are, action is taken and they are taken for treatment. Identifying and following up the contacts of the cases, either at household level or within the compound or neighborhoods. giving feedback to community members about reported cases and what they should do to prevent further spread. In a lot of areas, you might even find that you may need the community health worker to do for you interpretation. You may speak in the national language and the community health worker speaks in the local language. And usually when people hear something in their local language, it speaks both to their minds and to their hearts. So the community health worker is very useful in building that trust for you. And then verifying if public health interventions took place as planned with the involvement of the community. Remember that in public health, the involvement of the community is important in building the support you want and for you to be able to sustain the measures you have taken and have people within the area where you are working to believe in what you're doing. So the community health worker becomes an important link between the local health authorities, the local health worker, and the community. And then participating in meetings organized at the local government level is a kind of representation for the local people or the affected people. So that brings us to an end to the practice exercise 3. And maybe I'll hand over to Luca to
Okay, thank you, Wilson, for that feedback. I think your feedback has addressed a lot of the questions that were raised in the first presentation. For example, somebody was asking questions of feedback. To whom do we give feedback? I think in this exercise, you addressed the questions, and there were other questions like, what are we analyzing? Just for us to note that from the community level, any case that is detected as a suspect, be it a suspected cause of disease or an event. So ideally, it is supposed to be, analyzed. You look at, for example, if in a health facility, 20 cases of a particular disease is reported. So at this point, you need to analyze this number of cases. And what are you analyzing? The question is, you want to ask, is it the same number of cases, the same period last year? Is there a difference? Are we having an outbreak in this case? So that is what you analyze so that you can now come up with your decision. Is it really an outbreak we are dealing with, or it is probably maybe it's a normal routine or occurrence, especially in endemic diseases? And then if an event is reported, of course, you need to analyze that event. Is it a health threat or it is not a health threat? It is something that we need to take action, or it's just a rumor that probably does not, may not cause any threat to health. So I think this presentation answered and some of the questions. While we still wait for Shamila to take over, I will call on Alan to take exercise 4. Alan, please. You can still use the Q&A section, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Luca. Wilson, can you please project for me?
Yes, Alan, thank you. Right away.
All right, as we wait for Wilson to project, just to thank the participants for those who completed the exercises. So this exercise basically is, we are going to provide feedback on viral hemorrhagic fever outbreak. Just like our previous presenters,
Are you able to see my slide?
Yes, yes, I'm able to see. I hope the participants are able to see. I'm sure most of you did this exercise at country level, and you should have read through exercise 4 using the participants' guides. But majorly, you are supposed to refer to sections 11 of the third generation technical guidelines for IDSR. So this exercise is basically about a case study, a suspected viral hemorrhagic fever outbreak. 3 brothers from the Dogbera family residing in Mende community went to trap wild animals for meat in Gola Forest Reserve in early December 2017. They managed to catch 1 limping monkey and some bats, which they killed, roasted, and ate, as they looked for more game meat to take home and sell. 2 days later, the younger brother fell sick with a high fever, a headache, muscle ache, abdominal pain, diarrhea, and vomited blood. He could hardly walk, so his siblings decided to carry him, but he died on the way. Soon after that, the elder brother also fell ill, but refused to go to the hospital, fearing the arrest by government authorities. So all the questions that follow are related to this scenario. Next, please. Next. Wilson. Okay, the question is, have you had, you were supposed to have answered this question in your group. The first question was, have you heard about viral hemorrhagic fever? If yes, how? Of course, this varies among us, from group to group, because some people have actually responded to VHF, some have never heard of it, and majority have heard about the outbreaks in previous countries. Next. And the next question is, what is viral hemorrhagic fever? Please flash the answer. So viral hemorrhagic fever is a sudden illness with fever and bleeding from the body that can be caused by germs such as Ebola, Lassa fever, dengue fever, Rift Valley fever, Congo Crimean fever, and yellow fever. You may realize that the majority of people, when you talk of viral hemorrhagic fever, they think of Ebola because of the West African outbreak, because of what is happening in Congo. But there are many other diseases that are part of this viral hemorrhagic fever syndrome. And we have mentioned here Lassa fever, for example, in Nigeria, dengue fever, I'm sure in Southeastern Asia, but also some parts of Africa. The Rift Valley fever, which is common and associated with some degree with livestock. It's common in the East African belt, in the Southern African countries. The Congo Crimean fever, commonly known as and abbreviated as CCHF, and yellow fever viruses, which is almost known to you. And if you realize some of these are of international health concern. So that's basically what hemorrhagic fever is. Next. Question number 3 is about, is viral hemorrhagic fever dangerous? If yes, why? The answer is yes. This is very, very dangerous. Why? Because of the following reasons. 1, it can cause several people to die in a very short time. You notice from the case study, one of the brothers died in a very short time. It can easily spread from one person to the other and cross to several communities. That's why it's very, very important. If a country reports a case of viral hemorrhagic fever, they notify the next communities, the neighbors, but also across the borders, because it can easily cross from one person to the other and also cross several communities, including borders. And as of today, it has no definite cure. I know there are some therapies that have come up, but as of today, there's no definite cure for this viral hemorrhagic fever. Next question. The next question is about whether, how viral hemorrhagic fever is spread. I'm sure you discussed this. And The answer is, there are various ways in which viral hemorrhagic fever is spread, but notably from wild animals, handling of any infected wild animals, game meat, chimpanzees, gorillas, forest antelopes, alive or dead. If you notice, most of the outbreaks that have taken place in the world have associated with exposure from either a dead animal, a carcass, or an alive animal. It also spreads from person to person by contact with the infected person's body fluids, such as blood, vomitus, urine, sperm, vaginal fluids. And this also is dangerous because it also brings in the aspect of fomites. If someone's blood has spilled on the table and someone touches it and touches the soft parts, then they can get viral hemorrhagic fever. So that's how it's spread from wild animals, handling wild animals, and also from person to person. The next question, question 5, is about whether viral hemorrhagic fever can spread from an adjacent area or across the border. I'm sure also this you discussed, and those who have been following this and who have heard of this, the answer is yes. If infected people travel from one area to another and come into contact with other uninfected persons, they definitely spread the disease. This is a disease that easily spreads from one border to another. Just like how we are currently facing with COVID, all these diseases are diseases of public health of international concern. You have those for you who have followed the West African outbreak that happened some years back. If you follow the history, you would see how it spread from one country and affected the neighboring countries. Look at Congo. Look at how it spread from Congo, it crosses to Uganda, it crosses to to other neighboring countries. So yes, it can spread if someone infected gets on flight, gets on ship, uses a canoe and crosses the border, it will definitely spread the disease. Using the community case definitions, we had already talked about the case definitions. Number 6, question number 6. You were supposed to discuss in your group if these brothers should suspect having viral hemorrhagic fever. Definitely the answer is yes. Looking at the scenario, they got in contact with game, with wild animals. In a short while, the brother died. Then after a while, the other sibling got sick. So this, if you are a community health worker, if you are a member in the community, you should suspect viral hemorrhagic, because there's history of someone dying from high fever and vomiting, which is usually not explained. If you have other causes that are explaining possibly vomiting and blood diarrhea, and there's no exposure to wild animals or exposure to being in contact with someone who is suspected to have viral hemorrhagic fever, you may think of any other possible cause. But for this scenario, these brothers have the right to suspect VHF, and they should be able to take the necessary actions. The next question, question 7. Since the Dogbera brothers are known to have visited a clinic, have known to not yet have visited a clinic, what should the community do as part of the community response? The community can do several things. One of them, the community should inform the health facility immediately. For those who followed the module on community-based disease surveillance, and for the countries that have adopted the 3rd generation technical guidelines, you will know that when you're, as part of the surveillance, you should link a particular community to health facility for immediate reporting. So the community should inform the health facility immediately. They should advise the second brother to go to the clinic immediately. They should not fear that they're going to be arrested, because the more they remain in the community, the more they expose. They should not organize a mass funeral for the dead brother, but call the health authorities to supervise. So in such scenarios, as part of community surveillance and response, you should be able to have what they call supervised burials. It should be safe, dignified, but also supervised. They should not touch any of the dead person's belongings until the health authorities advise them to do so. They should advise the persons who have had contact with any sick person or dead person to report to the CBS focal point. Wilson, please flash the answers. And they should keep good personal environmental hygiene. What do I mean by this? One, they should wash their hands with soap under safe running water after the toilet, before eating, and then cooking as part of the routine. They should clean their houses with an environment on a regular basis, and they should avoid to go back to the forest for wildlife hunting, because it means now that ecosystem is a threat, and in case they go back to the forest, possibly they will be increasing, they will be exposed more. Question number 8. What action should the community-based surveillance focal person take? I'm sure this you also discussed. Most importantly is to notify the health facility manager immediately. We're emphasizing the word immediately. You should fill in the community alert form and submit to the health manager. Dr. Mugaga took you through the health facility the community alert form, which should be at any one time with the community-based focal person, and ensure that the brothers visit the facilities, but they should avoid touching him. So these are the basics, basically. You're a community-based surveillance focal point. In community X, you have such a scenario. What do? You notify the health facility manager, you fill in the community alert form and submit it to the health facility manager, and ensure that the brother who is still sick visits the health facility, but make sure that you do not, you put the basic, in terms of infection prevention. Next, which should be the last one, question 9. You are supposed to discuss if a community-based surveillance focal person should be part of the investigation and community feedback team. Definitely, yes. This is very, very important. And even our moderator, Shamila, alluded to this. The community-based surveillance focal person will assist the investigation team and is part of the team in doing the following activities. One is to mobilize the community members for health education on prevention of acute hemorrhagic fever, is to identify and report any new cases that may occur, because you notice that these brothers possibly came back home, possibly they were in the community, possibly they exposed more people. So we are bound to see more new cases. So they should identify and report any new cases that may occur. They should identify and all the contacts. They should give feedback to the community members about the reported cases and prevention activities. Very important to try and break the transmission chain. They should verify if public health interventions took place as planned with the involvement of the community. You cannot manage and control an outbreak unless the community is on top of their game. You have to involve them. It's very, very important. And for those who are already adopting the 3rd generation technical guidelines, you know that community involvement is one of the key core components to ensure that, that IDSR is implemented successfully. And of course, to participate in meetings organized by health authorities at any level of the health system. It's always important to involve the community-based, because these are the first responders. So these are some of the activities that the district health team can involve the community-based surveillance focal person, and he should always be part of the surveillance team. So thank you very much. This is basically what the feedback I had to provide to you. As our colleague said, some of the answers may possibly were straightforward based on your group discussions. And I hope this session has provided some insight in regards to some knowledge. And this also will build the assessment that is coming that you should be able to do in the next couple of days between now and the next session. So thank you very much. Over to you, Luca.
Shamila is back.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, colleagues. I hope it's clearer now.
Very clear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Thank you also to some of the participants who even gave me suggestions on how to resolve my issue. It means that everybody is really interested in getting this thing going. We're really impressed by your commitment. The chat has been alive. Has been actually so many questions there. Many participants also said that they were able to do the questions by themselves. And when they also cross-checked with the answers presented by the facilitators, they were quite happy to see that many of their answers aligned. So congratulations to all the participants for really doing their research and answering the questions. However, there were some few clarifications, and I will call on my colleagues to help us with some of the answers. So one of the questions was, has cholera spread through gatherings in an outbreak? Is mass education necessary? For example, like in schools or churches. I would like to call on my colleague, Luca, to kindly answer this for us. Thank you. Over to you, Luca.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again? I was having a little problem with my network.
Has cholera spreads through gathering, like in a big outbreak, is mass education necessary?
Well, I will say one, no. Because if it depends now on what type of mass gathering we're talking about. It is not airborne, that is one, so we need to understand. And of course, we know what promotes cholera is the issue of sanitation, poor sanitation, both it environmental or personal sanitation. So for mass gathering, if there is issues of, where you have to take food, or there is fecal-oral possibility of fecal-oral transmission, of course, we need to be careful with that. But just to gather people, to give them information where they are not going to eat food and basic site hygiene is maintained, I think that may not help in the spreading of the disease. As I said again, it is fecal-oral, so we don't have to, provide food, substances for people to consume. Even if that is going to be done, then proper hygiene must be observed. Over.
Thank you, Luca. So, but I think the question was asking whether, like, sensitization. I think it's mostly about that. Maybe like a community engagement to explain to them the mode of transmission. Maybe that is what the questionnaire the person wanted to actually clarify, whether like the mode of spread, like you highlighted. I think because they may not be aware of how the disease spreads. So like you mentioned, it may be good to also engage the community, explain to them how it spreads, so that individually they can adopt some of the hygienic methods like hand washing and disposal of waste and all of that, so that they can prevent the spread. And we had another question also that said that given that there are multiple viral hemorrhagic fever, is it possible to narrow it down to which particular viral hemorrhagic fever that Dogbere brothers actually experienced? So I'm going to our viral hemorrhagic fever expert here, Alan, to please help us answer this. So is it possible to really pin down to which particular viral hemorrhagic fever that the brothers actually experienced?
Well, at this level, based on the scenario, it would be difficult. It's because it's at this point in time, it's basically at the level of possibly it's a syndrome. But if you want to zero down, then that's where the laboratory experts now come in. You go in and you remove specimen, and then you confirm, and then that's where the guidance now comes in, and they will tell you either you're dealing with disease X, A, B, or C. But before that, in the initial stages, that's why we call it the viral hemorrhagic fever. And usually the beauty that usually the prevention activities are usually in line with, I mean, they're similar in the initial stages. For those who are dealing with IDSR, you know that the laboratory is a very huge component and one of the most important components to confirm this outbreak. So yes, you can zero down after doing as part of the outbreak investigation, and then ultimately the laboratory experts will guide us on what kind of pathogen or germ we are dealing with. Over.
Thank you so much, Alan. I think that's a very important thing. We even have laboratory colleagues with us in the training, and they play a very important role. Alan, I want to keep you here with a follow-up question on that as well. If yellow fever is part of viral hemorrhagic fevers, why does it stand alone in reporting forms?
Come again. The question is, why does
if yellow fever is also a viral hemorrhagic fever, why does it stand alone in terms of reporting?
I don't know if I will be able to answer that question very well, but most countries can decide. First of all, yellow fever is a disease of international health concern. And ideally, it's among the diseases which internationally are required by and mandated by almost all countries to report on. So you can look at it at that angle. And actually, that's the most important angle. But also, if you notice, other countries can decide to single out viral hemorrhagic fevers based on the epidemiology of the country, and they single out viral hemorrhagic fever. But specifically for yellow fever, it's because it's as part of international health regulations, it's mandated that countries should ideally report on a suspected yellow fever case. I don't know if I can add on to that. I don't know if I've answered the question.
I think that is the answer, actually, Alan. You're spot on. It's a disease of international concern, and it is one that has a vaccine. So it has to be reported separately. Thank you so much for that, Alan. We have another question which says that why is the community focal person not allowed to address the community without the help of community spokesperson? To answer this, I would like to call on my colleague, Mugaga.
Yes, thank you, Shamira. Yes, it is recommended that when the CBS focal person is addressing the community, should use the services of the community spokesperson, but it shouldn't be the case all the time, especially when he's handling one-to-one cases. Is allowed, but gathering the entire community sometimes can be challenging, and there could be so many questions that arise out of that meeting, which may overwhelm the knowledge he has, because he has limited knowledge on these issues. So if he gathers a big community, it may be challenging for him to handle all the issues that arise out of this gathering. But on a one-to-one basis, it's okay. He can go to some individuals who have specific problems, discuss with them, and when there are some issues he can't handle himself, he can consult the nearest health facility. But gathering a big community without the help of the focal person, there could be issues that he may fail to manage. So it's recommended that in that case, you should have the community spokesperson who maybe has more experience in handling bigger gatherings like that. But generally, he's used to give feedback to the community, but he shouldn't be handling big gatherings where he may be overwhelmed. Thank you. Over.
Thank you very much, Mugaga, for that question, for answering that question. I think it's a very important one. We also have another question, which says that most reporting protocols, there's no inclusion of reporting from traditional healers. So what do herbal practitioners do when they suspect any potential outbreak? Wilson, can you please answer this for us? Wilson?
So, thank you, Shamila. I don't know if I should get my video off because I think my bandwidth is not too wide. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. So the whole African region, we have traditional medicine practitioners, and even in the rest of the world, in Asia especially, it's a big field. And some of the participants have been writing in the Q&A, pointing out that they believe that in many countries, we may be missing important information because our public health surveillance in many areas fails to cover these people. So I believe that with our community-based surveillance and with our community health workers, who are our representatives on the ground, we can have the local health authorities move further and ask them to start forming links with the traditional healers so that some of the information that the national systems are missing can come on board. Because even in urban areas, information could be missed because people go to drugstores and pharmacy shops. And in the communities, especially in deep and far places, information could be missed because some people seek treatment from traditional healers. So I believe this should be a question that should be addressed by local health authorities, depending on the uniqueness of the area where that is in their jurisdiction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wilson. So like he rightly mentioned, they're all part of the sources of information for our community surveillance focal person at the communities. So that's how the information gets across. There's another question, because I think everyone is so excited and interested with this viral hemorrhagic fever. So Alan, this question is for you. Regarding the transmission of viral hemorrhagic fevers, through contact or touch or carrying of dead animals, for example, in the case of a dead monkey, in the case of dog brothers. The question is that, can we use alcohol-based sanitizer? I know this is not an IDSR related question. It's more of like a preventive question, but I thought I should just bring it here because there are so many questions on this viral hemorrhagic fever. Alan?
Yes, as part of the safety nets, and as part of IPC, I mean, an alcohol sanitizer with the right concentration has a role to play in trying to break this transmission chain. So yes, you can use that. Of course, why we refer to washing hands with soap is because some people in the community, in the villages, cannot afford sanitizers. But if you are able to afford sanitizers, and just like we have used them in the previous outbreaks, yes. So yes, the answer is yes, it has a role in playing as part of IPC, interventions to try and reduce on the transmission, especially for the frequently touched services and fomites and that kind of thing. So yes, it has a role. You can use the alcohol-based, but please use the right concentration and the right recommended sanitizers that are approved by the local government health authorities. Over.
Thank you very much. And it's good you mentioned the right concentration, because sometimes we have all of these sanitizers that have been sold in the market, but they may not really have the right concentration to destroy or kill, inactivate the virus. Thank you again, Alan. We have another question. This is on sorry, let me just get that question. It's quite an interesting question. Okay. So I'm just trying to get that one. Can I please ask our participants to use the Q&A for administrative issues and the technical issues, and then the chat for other non-technical issues. Okay, so is it possible for a traditional healer or drug shop owner to be chosen as a CBS focal point? I think this is a very interesting question, and it comes up all the time. Some people are asking whether a TBA can be a CBS focal point. Please, can I call on Luca to answer this question for us? Is it possible for a traditional healer or traditional birth attendant or a small drug shop owner to be a CBS focal person in that community? Luca?
Yeah, I'm on. Thank you very much, Tim, for that questions, and also for for the clarification that is required. You know, when we're talking about community-based surveillance, the information sources are from, you know, diverse sources. So those people you mentioned are also part of the information sources, including the traditional healers. However, there are criteria for selections of community-based surveillance focal persons. One, the person must be literate, because he or she will need to fill forms. So if this person is literate and is accepted in the community, yes, he or she could be selected as a focal person for community-based surveillance. But of course, if the person is not literate, then that knocks off the person. He can still be an information source, but not necessarily a community-based focal person. Over.
Thank you so much. So like we mentioned in submodule C, we went through the criteria. Thank you so much, Dr. Luca, for reminding us about that. We have having also a lot of questions on viral hemorrhagic fever. Someone was asking the difference between Lassa fever and Ebola virus disease. So some of these things, you can read it in the technical guidelines, because this is about the different diseases. So specific details on those can be found in the technical guideline, because we are talking about surveillance and reporting. So we will not go into depth about really the differences per se, or the different modes of transmission. Please, like we mentioned before, the participant guide and also the technical guidelines which we have shared, please use that as your benchmark, especially the technical guidelines. They form the basis for everything. So someone asked this question, whether it is possible to know, to know just when someone has a fever, for example, just fever, how can you really know whether it is something related to an outbreak or something? The question is not very, very clear, but basically saying that if someone has a fever and several people have fever, how do you investigate it? I think for this particular question, just like the facilitators have said, it's about linking it. So if people have a symptom, even if it is a mild symptom, if you can link it and say, okay, these people are either related or they live in a household or they are working together in one place, you can report it as an event. So an event is different from or the conditions that have case definitions for. So unusual events, they can all be reported. And that's why we have the community-based surveillance person. So any unusual thing happening, it doesn't really have to fit into a case definition. Anything that is unusual should be reported. So there was another question about animals. So someone was asking, I think this must be our veterinary colleagues, because someone was asking, why is it there is no place in the reporting form, for example, reporting a large amount of dead animals? I think I will give Mugaga, because he really explained this when he was talking about the forms. I think it's for Mugaga. Why is it that there's no place for reporting, for example, large amount of unexpected animal deaths? Mugaga?
Yes, thank you, Shamila, and the participants for this. We on the form, yes, it may be missing, but as the country adapts these reporting forms, they can include this information. But also on the alert notification form, community alert form, it's an event. So you describe what event you are reporting. So you can even, there was even a question asking whether animals are involved. So if it's about death of animal, you can include it in that particular section. But for the country, when you're adapting the form, yes, on the monthly log sheet, it is missing. And I remember mentioning it, that you can adapt and include the relevant information that is required for notification to the nearest health facility by the surveillance, the community surveillance spokesperson. So it may be not specifically specified there now, but as the country adapts the form, you should include it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mugaga. Colleagues, I will apologize for the break in the connection sometime earlier on in the session. We've been having very good feedback, and thank you all so much for your active participation. Thank you to the colleagues, the facilitators, for a very, very informative session. They've really clearly given us the answers and explained why. And thank you for all the comments and the commendations. So dear colleagues, like we mentioned before, this is the end of the introductory module. And we hope that you'll be able to use this in your day-to-day work in the field. And like we mentioned also, before the next session on Thursday, which is the module 1, so you can imagine all these have been just a teaser. So the real meat will be from next week. And we are so excited that we are going to do this together. So before module 1, you will receive a link, and please, I'm sure all of you will do your best in that test. Good luck to all participants, and thank you to my fellow colleagues and everybody. Thank you so much. This is the end of the session. Bye. This is bye for all of us. Bye-bye.